Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Claressa Shields and Kaye Scott right around the corner. A lot of people have opinions on the fight, man. Some people want Claressa to lose. Some people think she will lose. Majority want Kaye Scott to win, but the majority think Claressa wins. And it's understandable. You know what I'm saying? You got a pressure fighter versus a technician. You know what I mean? And the fight isn't simply about two world champions stepping into a ring. Claressa has so much drama around her, and Kaye Scott is just there in the breeze in Australia. No drama around her. She's the underdog. She's supposed to lose. She has nothing to lose. And that's why I think Kaye Scott's going to come in there and possibly make the fight more competitive than what people are anticipating. And, whether she loses in a competitive fight, it doesn't matter because she still wins. If Claressa wins a decision in a competitive fight, she loses because she's not supposed to be in a competitive fight with Kaye Scott. Kaye Scott is older. Kaye Scott has limited fights. She has no knockouts. And she has a little bit of a history with, being having an MRI on her brain and skull, a CAT scan on her brain and skull. So the reality is there's a talent gap. But we all know Big Goat doesn't seem to be focused. She has a weight cut that she seems to be struggling to make. She said one day that, hey, she had to come down 20 pounds. Then she said on the Cam Newton interview, 30 plus pounds. But we all know it's over 40 pounds because Claressa Shields was walking around well over 200. So now she got to find a way to melt all that weight off to get down to 160. And I personally think Claressa's going to have dead leg when she gets in that ring, possibly after round 2 or 3. Those 2-minute rounds, Claressa does go all out. She's very explosive. And I think if Kaye Scott is still in there, which I believe she will be, now the fight gets very competitive because the talent gap closes as a result of Claressa's, I'm going to say, her exhaustion and her poor conditioning as a result of the weight loss. She's not going to have the snapping of punches. She's not going to have the stamina. And she's not going to have the punch resistance, and she already doesn't have any power. So that's going to make her more vulnerable than what we're used to seeing. Does it mean Kaye Scott's win? No. Does it mean she has a chance? Hell yes, she has a chance. She has a great chance. You know what I'm saying? And understand, this ain't a collision of philosophies and shit. You know what I mean? One side, you got Big Woke. She wants to impose herself every time she gets in the ring. All of her opponents. She's all about pressure, speed, combinations, physicality, intelligence, relentless activity. Then you got Kaye Scott. She's experienced. Even Claressa Shields gives her credit. A lot of years as an amateur. She's a technician. She wants to control the distance, which she needs to do. Put that jab all up in Claressa's mouth, all up in her mouth. She wants to dictate the rhythm, pick her moments, time Claressa, and make Claressa work for clean opportunities. The jab will be key here, folks. And as a result, this creates one of the most fascinating questions surrounding the matchup. You know what I mean? Which style wins when these two women get in the ring? Now, it's just two different approaches, man. Because boxing is really all about hit and don't get hit. It ain't the mash-up, crash-up that Hood Champion be out here talking about, you know what I'm saying? But great fighters interpret that philosophy, I think, differently. Some say, you know what, I'm accomplish things through movement. Others try to say, you know what, I'm going to stay in the center of the ring and I'm going to prove that this person doesn't belong. Others use speed, pressure, somewhat overwhelm you with combination punching like Zepeda does. And then others just frustrate you with timing. So the most fascinating thing about Shields and Scott is that both can box, but they don't necessarily want the fight to look the same. Claressa Shields, she wants to dominate. She wants to control. She wants a knockout. Kaye Scott wants to control. She wants to dominate. And she wants a knockout. But the difference is how they attempt to obtain it and who can really get a knockout. Neither one of them knock people out. And if you ask me, man, hey, Hood, who do you think has a chance of knocking the other one out? Neither one. Okay, look, we're going to chop off your leg and throw you in the river with man-eating crocodiles butt naked if you don't throw a name out there. All right. I ain't trying to be hopping around here and shit. I think first 3 rounds, Claressa has a chance to knock out Kaye Scott. After that, Kaye Scott has a chance to knock out Claressa. Now remember, you threatened to chop off my leg and throw me butt naked in the river with man-eating crocodiles. I don't want to be doing all that. Because neither one of them knocking anybody out. Now, as far as Big Goat, whether you like her or not, Big Goat with the big mouth. She is an attacking machine. Her fists move faster than her goddamn mouth, boy. Big Goat has some strengths. She has some strengths, and the thing is, she doesn't have to rely on just one style. Big Goat, this is what be bugging me out. Look, I'm telling you, Claressa is not likable, okay? We all agree on that. But Lord have mercy, don't start talking shit about the woman can't fight. Claressa can fight. She can box. She can pressure. She can counter. She can fight on the inside. She can attack the body. She can increase her punch output. She can change the pace. Claressa can do a whole lot. She can do everything in that ring. She just can't knock you out. But knockouts, that's not all that matters. It's winning and how you win and how you dominate. And that versatility makes preparing for her very difficult. That's why you could basically say she's been undefeated since she started fighting as an amateur. That Savannah Marshall loss. I mean, whatever with that bullshit. She came back clipped as a pro. But basically, you can say Claressa has never lost a fight, amateur or pro. So an opponent can't simply create one game plan and expect it to work the entire fight against Claressa. But I do think the jab is the most important weapon for Kaye Scott. The jab and her timing and Claressa Shields. Her pressure, I want to see if she's going to be able to step forward, cut the distance, throw combinations, force exchanges, and start to take rounds. Because if she starts dictating where and when the fight takes place, that shit is critical. It's all over. And if she can sustain that, then Claressa will probably get a stoppage. But if Claressa slows down and starts, sucking in air, oh, she's in trouble. But I'm just going to go ahead and say it's not just about landing punches when it comes to boxing. It's about controlling where those punches are being thrown and trying to make your opponent fight when you want them to fight and make them fight when they don't want to fight. Now, for Kaye Scott, she can kill all that shit with the distance and the jab, like I'm telling you, and timing. Her best friend is going to be space in this fight. If she can maintain the distance she wants, she can make Shields reset repeatedly. That means using bingo, the jab. Or like my Puerto Rican partner say, el de jab, es de jab. Who's champion? Es de jab, for the jab. It's like, man, shut your ass up over there, man. And I ain't joking. It's my homeboy, Esco, man. We always be fucking around. That dude be like, es de jab. I like, all right, the jab. But if she can use that jab, some lateral movement, angles, straight punches, shit, time when she's exiting out, man, she has a good opportunity to establish a comfortable rhythm. And every time Shields begins building momentum, Scott will be able to interrupt it. But she's got to use that jab and movement. Now, who's going to control the center of the ring? I mean, the first 3 rounds, I would say Claressa Shields. Claressa Shields is a machine, man. You know what I mean? If Shields owns the center, Scott may spend much of the fight moving backwards. But if Scott can control the center, Shields may be forced to chase or reset or think harder than she has to and can't do things instinctively. That's one thing I've never seen anybody do aside from Savannah Marshall. Is put a kind of pressure on Claressa where she has to think and really and not where she wasn't able to react instinctively to everything. She had to think. If you force her to think, that little half a second lapse in decision making, oh, that could be all bad in a boxing ring. And next thing you know, Scott gets some control, and that distinction could influence the judges. A fighter who consistently dictates positioning often appears to be controlling the action. And I think early is Claressa. After those first 3-4 rounds, I think it's Kaye Scott. But you just don't know. Because it really comes down to the jab battle, man. I keep talking about the jab. It could become one of the most important weapons of the entire fight. I'm telling you, man. For Kaye Scott, the jab establishes range, interrupts Claressa Shields. That's what she's going to have to do. Score points, makes Claressa second guess herself, and she could come back and say, shit, I can't get beyond her jab, coach. She'll be in the corner. Man, please, John David Jackson. Coach, I can't get beyond the jab. Tell me. I don't know what to do, jab. I don't know what to do. Papoose, pap, pap, brrr. I need help. Papoose, pap, pap. Come on over here. Kaye Scott putting this Aussie, oi, jab all up in my ass. And it don't feel good. Papoose, pap, pap, brrr. You see what I'm saying? That jab will keep Shields from setting her feet and creates opportunities of follow-up punches. Now for Big Whoa, the jab can become a weapon for entering range. She ain't throwing that first jab to land. She gonna throw that first jab to get a little closer, second one to enter the range, third one to land and come with the big right hand. Guess what she gonna do? She gonna be tripling, quadrupling up that jab. So the fighter who establishes the more effective jab may control the entire geometry of the fight. You know what I mean? I'm just being real with you. And then the inside fighting, I got to get at the Claressa Shields. I don't know what Scott can do on the inside, but I got to get at the Shields. Shields has proven over and over. She can fight on the inside. She get on the inside, boy. She throwing that uppercut, a hook, right hand. And then she letting go with them 1-2s. And Claressa get you off of her. She'll get you off of her, man. You know what I mean? You're rushing on her, man. She'll step to the side and throw that right hand. You know, there's fighting off the ropes is if you're not used to it, your ass will be in trouble if someone gets you off the ropes. That's why you got to practice it. You know what I'm saying? But I'm telling you, man, my go-to used to be that goddamn uppercut hook. I was southpaw, so the uppercut hook and that straight left. You know what I'm saying? And roll up out of there. But for Kaye Scott, I don't know about that inside fighting. I got to get that to Claressa Shields. But can Scott make Claressa Shields miss? Like, this is what I think is critical. Can't she make Big Whoop miss? Because Claressa's at her most dangerous when she feels comfortable. So for Kaye Scott, she got to try to, make Claressa miss enough to create frustration and, again, force her to not be able to do things instinctively and really, really think. Because if she can disrupt that rhythm and cause Claressa to lose a little energy here and there, next thing you know, you got some big-time opportunities for counterpunching. And I tell you, the counterpunching game, simple formula. Somebody attacks, someone makes them miss, somebody makes them pay with a counter. So whoever can repeatedly execute that sequence, they can discourage the other one from attacking recklessly. And this is what Scott would have to do. So at the end of the day, man, when it comes to this fight and when it comes to power, I don't think either one has power, but I think Claressa's a bit more explosive. And I think when you see her get into the championship rounds, if Claressa is not tired, I think the experience becomes fascinating and Claressa just picks up the pace and she's up in the way. But if for some reason that fight becomes really competitive, I'd say after like the third round, and Claressa develops dead leg, and Kaye Scott is up in the way with that great conditioning, and she putting them Aussie, oi, bing bings all up in Claressa's mouth, all up in her mouth. Well, Kaye Scott got a really good chance. It's going to be interesting, man. I just think whoever has more left in rounds 9 and 10 could have a major advantage. You know what I'm saying? And whoever can make the better adjustment. So that's just how I see that. You know what I'm saying? We could have a very competitive championship battle. If not, Shields could gradually impose herself, and or Kaye Scott is going to be able to do it. And that's why you got to talk about this shit about making 160 pounds. Weight, strength, conditioning, physical preparation. 160 pounds is a different world. Claressa hasn't been there in a while. She had to cut over 40 pounds, or she has to cut over 40 pounds to make 160. I know she does, because she keep lying about when she started camp. She keep lying about how much weight she had to cut. She ain't going to never tell you. But I'm telling you it's over 40 pounds. She weighed over 40 pounds, 200 plus pounds. And it's a different world when she's getting down there. She's straight Jasmine Guy right now. You know what I'm saying? Middleweight's a serious division. I think that's the division middleweight, right? At this weight, fighters can combine speed with substantial punching power. The thing is, Claressa doesn't quite have it, and neither does Kaye Scott. But the battle is Claressa losing the weight. So I think Claressa is going to compromise her speed, and I think she's going to make some mistakes, especially after them first 3 rounds. You got to have endurance. Endurance is required, and then conditioning is essential. Kaye Scott's already there. You know what I mean? Kaye Scott's not going to have no problem making weight. She stays in shape year-round. She out there, she's athletic, she's into fitness, she does her OnlyFans. Kaye Scott is up in the way, man, when it comes to her active lifestyle and healthy lifestyle. Claressa is out here, man. Man, please, give me some of that pineapple upside down cake. Red velvet. Yeehaw. Oh, boy. Papoose, get your little skinny ass over here. Come on over here, Papoose. Get some of this goat lobster tail. Get over here. You like seafood? Eat this, Papoose. But you see, making weight versus the fighting at the weight is different, man. There's a big difference. You can make 160, but can you perform at 160? Let's just be real. Fighters successfully hit the required weight and still feel depleted. Roy Jones Jr., when he fought Antonio Tarver. De La Hoya, when he fought Manny Pacquiao. Tonio Tarver, when he came down after doing that Rocky movie, and I think he fought Bernard Hopkins. I think Hopkins would have beat him anyway, but I like Tarver, but Hopkins dude's an alien, man. But the goal is, it's not simply to arrive at the weight at the correct number. It's to arrive on fighting that strong, hydrated, conditioning, and mentally sharp. When I just think about being hydrated, Claressa won't be because she has to get her weight down. Conditioned, I think she'll be good enough condition the first 3 rounds to look pretty good. Then she's just going to taper off. Mentally sharp. Well, she ain't mentally sharp. She all over the place doing these stupid-ass interviews and, ranting and raving and wanting to kill people over Papoose and asking questions about Papoose, which is just a whole nother goddamn ball of wax, but I ain't going to talk about it here. So she ain't mentally sharp, but I think she does have a physical advantage, you know what I'm saying? Because she's very comfortable with championship level competition across multiple weight classes. So it's none of this shit is new to her. It's the weight is going to be the problem. And she does know how to use her frame. I've never seen her have to hold on and, slow the fight down. And I've never seen her have to do that. I'm so used to her imposing herself during exchanges, but I'm just going to tell you, can she clinch? You know what I mean? Does she know how to battle for position so she can get rest in there? Because I think Claressa is going to be exhausted. And then with Kaye Scott, she's got some experience, but she brings something different. Of course, the amateur experience she has, and she's, developing professionally. But what she does has taught her how to manage fights strategically. So she doesn't win every physical exchange, and she won't win that with Claressa, but she has to try to prevent those exchanges from happening where Claressa gets the upper hand, and I think that's going to be critical. And just the body. Go to the body, man. A sustained body attack. Claressa's legs, I think, are going to slow down anyway. If Kaye Scott can go to the body, she's gonna have something good going. I think that's a winning recipe. Then the cardio. I think Kaye Scott, look, Claressa got the snack and other things that she has going on. But again, I'm looking at this and I'm like, man, because Claressa losing so much weight, I'm going to tell you, when you ask me who's in better shape, that's the real question. I almost want to say Kaye Scott. You know what I mean? But who can maintain their strategy when exhausted? I want to say Claressa, because Claressa's been doing this shit for so long at the championship level, and she's had championship conditioning, but now she has to have a championship mindset because she could get tired in there. So we're going to see who's been putting in the work and running those hills and putting the miles in, not out here running their mouth on social media. You know what I'm saying? And I'll say this: elite conditioning allows a boxer to maintain technique while they're fatigued. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to find out, because I seen Claressa hit mitts. She was huffing and puffing, about to blow somebody's house down and shit. Hopefully she don't know where I live, because she sure as hell will blow my house down. Man, please, her champion. There you go with the jokes again. Oh, boy. Papoose, get over here. You like seafood, don't you? Eat this. Papoose, don't eat it. Leave that shit alone, man. But the bottom line, the test's going to come in the late rounds. I think the recovery between rounds, strength and efficiency, man. Look, a physically strong fighter can still waste energy. And that's why it's important for Claressa and Kaye Scott to be able to recover, man. The preparation doesn't end when training stops. It's all about sleep, nutrition, hydration, recovery. It's everything. You're spending months preparing your bodies for one night, and hopefully they've done it right. You know what I'm saying? Because it's an importance of recovery, there's a danger of overtraining, there's a mental side of the weight cut, and then you just got to wonder who benefits from a physical fight. If the shit becomes physical, you got to give Shields an opportunity to capitalize, especially early. But if it remains long range and tactical, shit, Scott may be able to minimize the physical advantages of her opponent. And that distinction could determine the fight's identity. And I'm just being real. That's why this weight class shit, it's almost like if I could deliver a weight class verdict at 160, Kaye Scott, Claressa Shields. Look, man, neither one of them can afford to underestimate the physical demands of being at 160. Even Kaye Scott, she looks in shape, but I'm sure she got to cut a little weight and shit to maintain that. She a tall woman. I'm sure she ate herself a couple peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. She probably blow up too, but she looked genetically like she naturally be a tall, slim, little tenderoni and shit. But the faster fighter, which is Claressa Shields, that doesn't mean she automatically wins. I think it's going to be the fighter who can maintain the strength, speed, focus, technique, and also decision making. But if they can maintain that simultaneously, I think they got something. Now, people keep talking about Claressa's strength, her strength, the power, the speed. I'm going to just say this. Kaye Scott has to outsmart the physicality of Claressa Shields. Boxing fans love simple comparisons: power, speed, pressure, movement, experience, youth. But what you got in front of you people is a great fight. And it's not that simple. You know, Big Goat versus Aussie, oi, oi, oi. This matchup could ultimately come down to one of boxing's oldest battles. Can speed and timing neutralize physical strength? You know? And Kaye Scott's got to do it, man. Speed is more than hand speed. When people say a fighter is fast, they're talking about their punches. But boxing speed has several components. You know what I mean? You got hand speed, the ability to think fast, foot speed, reaction speed, decision-making speed, ties into what I said, and combination speed. So a fighter who sees an opening first can appear faster, even if both fighters have similar physical speed. And that's what I'm going to be watching to see if Kaye Scott is going to be able to recognize when she has opportunities and openings to put the bing-bings all up in Claressa's mouth, all up in her mouth. But one thing's for sure, Claressa Shields, she got that speed, man. She got that speed. She got them combinations, man. Claressa is a problem. She get off, man, before an opponent can react. She like a goddamn King Cobra in there. You know what I'm saying? You can't. These opponents can see her in front of her, and they just can't react. You know what I'm saying? Them combinations that Claressa throws, boy, they can overwhelm defensive systems. You know what I mean? You may punch one of them. I mean, you may block one of them punches. Second one changes the guard. Third one finds an opening. Fourth and fifth ones, man, can take your ass down. And that's how elite combination punching works. And that's what Claressa does. But the thing is, Kaye Scott, you know, she has a potential advantage, and it's not necessarily trying to beat Shields in a pure speed contest. It's timing. A perfectly timed punch can beat a faster punch, and that's why I say the jab. Or like my Puerto Rican partner, it's the jab, it's the jab. Throw the jab, throw the jab. She's got to throw the jab. Strong, totem pole-like jab, Ike Cortez jab, winky right jab. Put it all up in her mouth, all up in her mouth. And if Kaye Scott can anticipate when Shields enter range, and she can get that jab off, she doesn't need to be faster. She just needs to be first. And put that jab all up in her mouth. All up in her mouth. Because that's what it's about. Speed and timing, man. That speed is like, I'll get that first. That timing says, I know when you coming. MFer. I know you're going to get there first, but I know when your ass coming. And the second can neutralize the first. If I know when you're coming, okay, I can handle it. That's why fighters with tremendous speed sometimes struggle against technically intelligent opponents. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just like Juan Manuel Marquez. That dude was a killer. Look at him and Pacquiao. Pacquiao was in there. That man known death by 1,000 left hands. He got into with Marquez first time they fought. First round, Marquez was like, what the hell? It was like 1,000 Pacquiaos in there. Second round, he figured that shit out, started timing him. Lord have mercy with that combination punching. Y'all saw what happened. He won every single round after that, in my opinion. He deserved to win the fight, but it ended up being a draw. Pacquiao dodged the bullet. Marquez beat his ass. So, you know, I'm not saying Kaye Scott is Marquez, and I'm sure as hell ain't saying Claressa's Pacquiao. But what I'm saying is that timing, man, can beat speed, you know? And the first punch is is really important because whoever lands the first punch, they're probably going to control the exchanges. You know, if Shields comes in, jabbing, combination punching, building combinations, shit, she going to control it. If Scott lands first, exits, she can prevent Shields from setting her feet, forcing her to reset. That first exchange could become a preview of how the entire fight goes, at least I think up to the third round, and then I think Clarissa's going to get tired, and then the fight becomes real interesting, you know? But that first punch is everything. Then the second and third punch, that's the danger for Kaye Scott. It's Clarissa's combination punching. You know, Big Rope doesn't necessarily need one perfect punch. She can build attacks. You know, you watch it. Jab, right hand upstairs, right hand downstairs, jab downstairs, jab, hook. She throwing Claressa throwing, she'll throw a 1-6-3. Bing, bing, bing. She'll throw a 1-6-3-4-5. She throws crazy count 1-3. Then bring the two behind it. So Claressa does the business, and she's gonna go to the body. And I just think the volume can eventually break down defensive habits. You know what I'm saying? But Scott's gotta have escape routes, and she gotta have them predetermined already. After every exchange, what you gonna do? Where are you gonna go? You're going straight back, left, right. You're gonna come forward, get underneath the jab, explode with the uppercut. What you gonna do? Can she cut Big Road off? You see, you can't be predictable in there with Claressa Shields. You can't come in there with the cookie cutter bullshit. Jab right hand, hook, jab, right hand, hook, slip. The hell out of here. Claressa gonna see right through that shit. That's why I think Kaye Scott, she can't allow Claressa to figure out her patterns, especially her escape patterns. Because Claressa will just throw the punch where she knows she's going. You know what I mean? You say, well, what does that mean? Y'all saw what Gervonta Davis did to Leo Santa Cruz. The man threw the jab right hand. Gervonta's like, what the fuck? He threw another jab. Gervonta slipped that right hand, hit him with the goddamn Baltimore bing bings, uppercut all up in his mouth. Knocked him out cold. So Kaye Scott's got to be careful. She got to be careful. You know what I'm saying? But I think angles are going to be Scott's best friend. Don't move straight back in lines. Claressa will just step with you and let her hands go. Create new attack lanes. Step outside, pivot, reset, force Shields to turn, pick up her feet. The more Shields has a turn, the harder it becomes to maintain pressure. But that means Kaye Scott got to be in shape to get all that done. And use feints, man. Both of them need to use feints. Shoulder twitch, jab feint, step forward. You know what I mean? A change in rhythm, man. Feints are going to be very important too. Force Claressa to reveal reactions. I know Claressa uses them. She'll get Scott moving with him, but Scott's got to use them to stop Claressa from committing. But can Kaye Scott make Claressa hesitate? Now, this shit is enormous in my opinion. You know what I mean? If Scott can make Shields hesitate before entering, Scott gains control. But Claressa just has so much experience. You know what I mean? Shields wants confidence in her attacks. That's Claressa. She want to come in there and be like the lion out in the jungle. She want to turn you into that wounded gazelle or be that big-ass crocodile in the river where them stupid-ass antelopes come to the edge to sip water. She want to sit there and have confidence in her attack. Like, oh, I got you now. But if for some reason Kaye Scott can force Claressa to start wondering, is the counter coming? Is Kaye Scott going to pivot? Is she going to fire back? Her offensive rhythm can slow because she's gonna be very cautious. And there's a big danger when you force somebody to overthink. It creates a trap. Because now you got a fighter who's so focused on avoiding an opponent's strength, they stop using their own. You see it happen a lot of time in fights. Shit, I tell you the story, man, when I was over there, I was sparring. One day I was out there sparring. I was overseas sparring, and first round this shit was all me. But I didn't know the motherfucker I was sparring was getting ready for some national championship. I was just in the military working out locally, so I wasn't in the kind of shape to get in there with this dude. Anyway, first round, I ate his ass up. Second round, I was doing good, but I started getting tired because I knew I was fighting for my life. And then I went full defense mode because I was tired. And he started throwing shots, but I was catching him, I was clinching. But he threw one shot that caught me real clean, and I felt it. And I remember I was like, how he hit me? How he hit me like that? But because I was tired. And I'm just telling you, man, when that happens, you stop using your own strengths. I didn't care what them coaches were shouting, man. Throw that uppercut. Use your jab. I was like, shit, I was holding on and just praying for that bell to ring. And I think you can see where it could happen when somebody stops using their own strengths if they get uncomfortable in there. But Kaye Scott, she can't spend the entire fight thinking about Shields. Shields can't do that about Scott. You know, they both have to score, they both have to attack, and they both have to convince the judges that they're winning. But I think that falls more on Kaye Scott than Claressa Shields, because you just got to give Claressa the upper hand with the championship experience, you know what I mean, and knowing what to do in high pressure situations. But anyway, we'll see what happens. But I'm just telling you, when it comes to conditioning, Claressa and that speed, that shit fades when you're tired. The early rounds, like I keep saying, they look different from the late ones. So you may look incredibly quick in round 1, 2, and 3, and then slower in 4, 5, especially 8, 9, 10. That's when the conditioning matters. So we're gonna see if Scott can slow Claressa's legs, or if Claressa can slow Scott's legs. I think the fight changes. I think the distance shrinks. Somebody gonna get closer. Combination become easier. The ring starts to feel small. It becomes hard to breathe, and all of a sudden, somebody becomes less effective. And for Kaye Scott, her greatest defensive weapon is movement. She don't want that. And the same thing for Claressa is movement and her offense. She doesn't want that to become less effective. I just think the perfect scenario for Scott, I think, is just jab, move, counter, clinch, reset, repeat. You know, she doesn't need to stand in front of Claressa Shields and exchange unnecessarily. She needs to make Shields work for every opportunity. And for Big Walt, I think the perfect scenario, I think the opposite of Kaye Scott's. I think take the center of the ring. Cut the ring, force exchanges, make her uncomfortable, attack the body, make her fight backwards, increase that pressure. You know, the longer Scott remains trapped along the ropes or near the corners, the more opportunities Shields has to unload combinations and hurt her and possibly get a knockout. And I think the movement is everything for Kaye Scott. But the moment that could change everything, because in every championship fight, there's a turning point. I think it could be a knockdown, combination, a cut, body shot, fatigue. I think a dramatic momentum shift, a fighter suddenly realizing the original game plan isn't working. And something else that I'm going to throw out here, because the fighter who responds the best to those moments may win the fight. But what happens if the crowd starts chanting, Remy, Remy? What happens if the crowd starts booing Claressa? What happens if Claressa comes out to fight Kaye Scott and half the crowd left already because they don't like the fact that Claressa came out here and disrespected Miss Shanika in Atlanta? They don't like the fact that she out there disrespecting everyone. What happens if Claressa comes out there on her way to the ring and sees ain't no crowd? Kaye Scott ain't gonna care. She getting paid. It's gonna mess with Claressa. It's gonna kill her ego. She's gonna be deflated. So now all of a sudden she gets in the ring. This thing about a knockdown could happen. She ain't focused. Huge combinations could be coming from Kaye Scott. Somebody getting cut, body shots. Could be Claressa getting cut and getting tore up to the body. The momentum shift could happen on the ring walk when Claressa realizes half the crowd left because ATL, they don't want her ass there. You see? That's when Claressa going to realize, holy shit, something's not working. And she'll get inside that ring and that game plan ain't going to work. So we're going to see how all that plays out, because I'm telling you, there's so many factors that are going to affect this fight. But at the end of the day, speed can frustrate strength. Timing can neutralize speed. But pressure can eventually overwhelm movement. And this is why the matchup is very intriguing. And Claressa should be the favorite. I'm telling you that. You know, Claressa doesn't need to become a different fighter. But the weight cut is the problem. But for Kaye Scott, she needs to make more adjustments than Claressa. Not necessarily becoming a power puncher, but she had to improve her speed. Her conditioning needs to be on point, and she has she needs a fast, strong jab, and then be able to move. If she does that, she has a great chance. But the bottom line is each fighter needs to force the other into an uncomfortable version of herself. It's just a matter of who can do it. You know what I'm saying? So the bell's going to ring. It just, which version of the fight will we get? Claressa turning the ring into a phone booth, or Kaye Scott turning the ring into a chessboard? You know what I'm saying? If Shields gets the fight she wants, her physicality and combination punching could take over, and that fight could probably end within 3. But if Scott controls the distance, that fatigue shows up in Claressa, and Scott has the timing and pace, she could force Shields into a tactical fight where every mistake matters, especially if Claressa slows down. And that's exactly why we need to talk about mental warfare going into this. But we'll do that in the next episode. I got episodes 8 through 12 coming next. Right now, I'm about to go chill. Y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.